Thank you for joining me on the journey. This is Completed Christianity. Welcome back again to another episode of Being Complete. And in this episode, we continue with our exposing of this Hebrew Roots exposed documentary by Pastor Anderson and his core ministry team. After that, and maybe another series, then we'll settle into our schedule here, and that should be pretty much a daily thing at that point. But now let's take a look at our video again. We're going to continue on with this of where they're trying to establish the absurdity of the claim in Hebrew Roots that the New Testament is written in Greek, and the Hebrew Roots people that say it's all written in Greek, or the Hebrew Roots people that say it's all written in Hebrew, and these people that say it's all written in Greek, they're both wrong. And we should have already given enough evidence in the past video to prove that at least the all written in Greek is wrong. And now we'll kind of attack the all written in Hebrew. And the thing is, it wouldn't make sense anyway, because you're writing to two different groups. You're writing to a Hebrew audience, and you're also writing to a Greek audience. So to write all in Hebrew or all in Greek wouldn't make sense. So let's let this guy continue on in our next clip of this.
They even go so far as to say that the New Testament was originally written in Hebrew. The reality is there is no evidence to prove such an idea.
No evidence to prove such an idea that it's all written in Hebrew. Well, that's true. Not that it's all written in Hebrew. But we already showed the quote in the last video where Papias is quoted to have said that Matthew wrote in Hebrew. And we covered the idea of how that the scholarly people, that they want to try and move people away, and really it's the enemy. The enemy comes in with these deceptions to move people away from the Hebrew understanding, because Hebrew is the language of the Father. Hebrew is very well maybe the language of creation, the very DNA of creation of what the Father spoke. But when the Father called Abram out and the Hebrew people began, the language that they used was a development of Chaldean, which was the area where Abram was from. And so that particular language, they developed it into Hebrew, or they were given it as Hebrew. And so right there, this is the language that the Father leads for his chosen to know. And then the only scriptural evidence we have of a word being spoken out of the heavens is spoken in Hebrew. And that makes it special, unlike that guy just tried to say that they want to say that, well, Hebrew's special. Well, when it's spoken from the heavens, that makes it special. And it's recorded in the scripture.
The New Testament books were written specifically to Greek people in Greek places. And so therefore,
the New Testament books are written specifically to Greek people in Greek places. This is false. This is false in the text. Here is Romans, the book of Romans. Now everybody's going to say, well, Rome is a Greek province. Of course, it's a Greek place. True. But right here, the people that he's writing to, that is being written to in the book of Romans, he says, behold, thou art called a Jew. So the people in Rome that he's writing to, predominantly Jews. He's writing to the Jews that live in Rome. So is that proof this book is then written in Hebrew? No, and I would myself contend that most likely it's written in Greek. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a minute. Let's let him continue on. But it's not all Greek people in Greek places, as he's writing to Jews.
and so therefore we can conclude that they were writing in Greek and not Hebrew, because those people that they were writing to were Greek-speaking people.
Every single book in the New Testament mentions the name of Jesus. if you look at the titles of the books, it isn't hard to figure out that they're primarily written to a Greek-speaking audience. You've got the book of Romans. You've got...
So he's saying that since the name of Jesus appears in every book, which is every book in his King James Bible, each one says Jesus, although even the original 1611 King James didn't actually say Jesus, but Jesus or Jesus, something to that effect, with a IESUS instead of the J. It is just false to say that because it says Jesus in the King James in every book, that the name is Jesus. These first century Galilean parents that had this special child in this Hebrew culture, in this Hebrew religion, that were going to give birth to this Hebrew Messiah, they gave him a Greek name. No.
1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians. Where are these places? Okay, well, obviously we know Rome is in Italy and had a heavy Greek influence, a great Greek-speaking population there, as well as Latin, of course. Then you have Corinth, a city in Greece. You've got Thessalonica. All of these different places are in the Greek-speaking world. Then you go to the book of Revelation. And who is it sent to? The 7 churches in Asia, or Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. Greek-speaking places. They're written to Greek-speaking people. You've got the book of Luke, written to Theophilus. You've got the book of Acts, written to Theophilus. You've got Romans chapter 16, where the Apostle Paul goes down through a list of his friends, and friend after friend after friend has a Greek name.
Sosthenes, Silvanus, Timotheus, and there's Yeshua. It just makes no sense at all.
Of course it makes sense, because he wasn't Greek. Just like we have the names of the disciples like Matthew, Mark, John. These names aren't their real names. Like John is a Hebrew name, Yohanan. Said, well, Yohanan, that's not a name that we Greek or Westerners understand, so we'll put John in there. Just like in every translation of the scriptures before the King James, the book of James, it was Jacob. And it's only until the time of the King James that it becomes James, because his name wasn't James, his name was Jacob or Jacob.
How we can call all these Greek people by their name that actually lived in this area, and then there's just this one man that's called by his Hebrew name.
Yeah, this one man who's attested to have the name above all names, the name by which we must be saved or might be saved, the name in which every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. This is not a name that we can just transliterate and it just becomes whatever we want. This is a name of meaning. The angel told them to name him this name, and this name was salvation, which is what in Hebrew, what Yeshua means, salvation. But this Jesus and Jesus in Greek, English, it doesn't have any meaning at all. It's not a name beforehand. There's no meaning to it other than the meaning that we assign to it, and we go back to the Hebrew to get the meaning. So this is just a nonsensical and ignorant argument.
It will make no sense if Jesus, living amongst all these Greek-speaking people in the Roman Empire, is be called as Yeshua.
Of course it does, because he lives in Israel. He lives in a place where they speak Hebrew. He has Hebrew parents. He's a Hebrew rabbi. It's like they can't be real and that they don't really believe what they're saying.
You go to the book of 2nd John, 3rd John, you'll see John bringing up Greek-speaking people as his fellow laborers, as his fellow church members. And so it's crystal clear in the New Testament that it's being addressed to a Greek-speaking audience. That's why we know that the New Testament was written in Greek, aside from the fact that there are almost 6,000 manuscripts of it written in Greek.
With it being that he continues to say, oh, all these people have Greek names, so it was written to Greek people. Well, how about the book of Hebrews, written to Hebrews? Yeah, so what's the point of writing to people who are Hebrews that they don't speak Greek? Why would you write to them in Greek when they're Hebrews and they speak Hebrew? You say, oh, well, you know, they were part of the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire predominantly spoke Greek, so they spoke Greek. Well, we're going to take a look at how that might not entirely be true. And we'll start with this verse right here. This is Romans, which everybody says, oh, Paul wrote Romans. Well, this right here, Romans 16:22 at the end of the book, I, Tertius, who wrote this letter. I, Tertius, who wrote this letter, this epistle. So Tertius wrote this, not Paul. He wrote the words of Paul down. And this is a common thing in the ancient world. Because, see, Paul, though we say Paul speaks Greek because he was from the Greek city of Tarsus. He's Paul of Tarsus, so he speaks Greek. Well, he was a child when he left Tarsus, and he was a Hebrew. And his father was grooming him to be a Pharisee. And Pharisees, they had a particular Pharisaical law that Hebrews, that they don't learn other languages. And we'll take a look at this quote right here from Josephus, where Josephus says, I've also taken a great deal of pains to obtain the learning of the Greeks. So when we have Josephus writing in Greek, well, he's telling us here that he took a great deal of pain to learn how to speak and write Greek. The learning of the Greeks and understanding the elements of the Greek language, although I have so long accustomed myself to speak our own language. What's that? Hebrew. He's a Hebrew. Speak our own language, that I cannot pronounce Greek with sufficient exactness, for our nation does not encourage those that learn the languages of many nations. So it was not encouraged that they would learn other languages, and this goes back to the Torah. Y'all didn't want them to learn about the other nations, or they would go and marry their women and serve their gods. And right here, Josephus is telling us, yeah, the Hebrews, they don't speak Greek. Just like the book of Hebrews, why would you write it in Greek and it's to the Hebrews? Because no Greek in the time would read that, because it's all about Hebrew stuff. So it is likely written in Hebrew. And throughout in a lot of books, there's many linguistic things that point to that a lot of things weren't written in Greek originally. And some may have even been written in Aramaic and then translated to Greek. And the reason that he's saying here, let's let the clip play.
In Greek, aside from the fact that there are almost 6,000 manuscripts of it written in Greek.
Aside from the fact there are almost 6,000 manuscripts of it written in Greek, well, that proves it's written in Greek. Well, no, it doesn't, because in the time of the Flavians with Vespasian and Titus, the Flavians had a particular doctrine, if you will, in war, where when they conquered people, they burned all their documents. And they did this to try and wipe them out by burning all their documents. And in this time frame, around the time of 70 AD with the destruction of the temple, that a lot of this Hebrew stuff, Hebrew documents, that whatever was found was burned by the Flavians. So that's why we have almost 6,000 Greek manuscripts, because it was all transferred in Greek, and anything in Hebrew for the most part was burned. Some things survived, which we will take a look at here in a second, but some things survived.
0 manuscripts of it written in Hebrew.
0! 6,000 in Greek, 0 of anything New Testament in Hebrew. Well, whoops, right there, it's a manuscript in Matthew written in Hebrew that at least goes back to the 1500s. And so, well, 1500s, that's not very far back. You might say, well, those 6,000 manuscripts that he's talking about, prior to 1500, we only have maybe 50 of those 6,000 that date past the 1500s. So, not much of a difference. And these Hebrew manuscripts, in the last 20, 30 years, something like that, they've been getting released and access has been made of them, and they've been shopped around different museums and things like that. They've come out of the Russian Orthodox Church after the time of the last 20, 30 years, something like that, after the time of the fall of the Soviet Union. They begin to be released, and people have been able to review these Hebrew manuscripts of New Testament writings. Predominantly it's Matthew, from my understanding.
Okay, so if the New Testament was written in Greek, and consistently the name of the Savior is Jesus, in German that's Jesus, in Spanish that's Jesus, in Greek it's Jesus, in English it's Jesus.
In English it's Joshua, because it's Yeshua, Joshua, if you're using an English term. But we have this lineage of transliteration in which the name has been changed.
It's not Yeshua. This book, the Greek New Testament, never says Yeshua one time. It never contains the Tetragrammaton one time.
Well, the reason it doesn't contain the Tetragrammaton one time is because in Christianity it's been vehemently adhered to for a rabbinic law, a rabbinic tradition. This is the type of thing in Galatians 2 that Paul's upset with Peter. He's not upset with Peter for turning back to the law, as I prove in one of my other videos. He's upset with Peter because Peter is adhering to a rabbinic tradition. Well, there's a rabbinic tradition called the law of ineffability that says that the name of the Father is too high and lifted up to be spoken, which is not the case at all, because in the original text of the Old Testament, the Tanakh, it's an inspired text, inspired by the Spirit, and inspired into the text is the name, the Tetragrammaton, the name of the Father, Yod-He, Vav-He, Yod-He, Wah-He, Yahweh, that his name is inspired in there 6,823 times. So, as I say in another video, if the Father inspired the name into the text 6,823 times, then he meant for us to know and use his name. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Comments of opposition are welcome. Just don't say anything dumb like we're not under the law, we're under grace, because you've been taught to use that verse outside of the bounds of its intended context. Subscribe now. Smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get notifications of all future videos.